Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Bennett and Mike sit down to discuss the difference between fear and being afraid. With the reason why this is a topic of discussion and it's front of mind for me is because a lot of people have asked about the fear of public speaking. They've asked about how do you suppress the fear of failure in order to go out and achieve greatness. Like, that's the question, right?
Really?
That, I swear to God, I hear this from fellow veterans who are just like, maybe not guys that I served on the line with or anything else like that, don't get me wrong, but I hear this from fellow veterans who will say, you know, it's almost like they have not a fear of letting loose with their genuine self, right? We don't really have that societal oppression so much. Veterans just don't want to deal with that shit.
Oh, we have a societal oppression.
Right. But the point is, though, is that
why do you think all these football players are taking knees?
We ourselves as veterans...
He's just ignoring the shit out of that, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, because that shit's funny.
Right. Well, I just... dude, the reason why I even bring it up is because I hear guys all the time who are like, no, man, you don't understand. I don't want to deal with the vast majority of this shit. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. And so I
totally get it.
Right? You know what I mean?
I do.
So there's like two different ends of that spectrum, because I'm on that end of the spectrum. I'm here to tell you folks, I just don't want to deal with the average stuff, like average shit. I don't live my life in an average way. It's entirely unique. I think if somebody tried to uphold my daily routine, they would probably fucking kill themselves. You know, like, whatever, I live my own way. But when it comes to a lot of these different professional things that we do, you know, you don't reinvent the wheel. You go out there and you find other methodologies that have worked, and then you apply it. But getting back to the actual idea of fear and being afraid, the reason why I say it like this is because I was talking to somebody about the credibility that comes along with a TED Talk, which it's cool, you know, it's awesome. But that environment was way less intimidating than being an instructor in the military. I'll tell you that much right now. Being an instructor in the military scared the shit out of me. And when I first did it, hit like the fear button. Like, oh my God. And it wasn't like fear of failure. It was like, it was utter, you're gonna lose your career or whatever. That's what it was at first. And TED Talk was just like, oh, I hope I don't, you know, fall off the stage in front of all these people or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like preparedness. It was a good, like, but again, circling back, the reason why I say it, it's because fear is a natural response to a force which has the potential to destroy us. Something attacking you or in response to a life or death situation. That's fear. Right? So like fear of public speaking and some of these other different things. Yeah, I don't know. It just isn't legitimate to me. I understand being afraid of something like that to an extent.
Yeah, like actual fear. Like, I mean, there is an actual phobia of like getting up on stage and talking in front of people. Like, it's
and that makes sense.
An actual condition. But people that just don't want to do all right. So what I really have come to realize, that people that are afraid to do things, it's not because they're afraid. Now, of course, you have the phobia part. So I want to give the little asterisk next to the statement, is you have actual conditions that don't allow people to do certain things, right? Okay, get it. But the biggest reason that most people are afraid to do things is because they're afraid of failure. Or, which it all goes hand in hand, that the failure makes them worry about what other people will think of them. You know what I mean? Failing makes people worry about their ability to pursue the future of things that they desire. Makes people worry that people will lose interest in them, you know, if they're like talking about dating or getting, you know what I mean, courting.
Right.
Things like that, man.
Well, and I get
really
that.
Is the fear of failure and, more importantly, what other people will think of them.
Well, and I get that. But that's the whole point.
But it's not an excuse. So
right.
It has not, it's the way to get over that is to stop giving a fuck what people think. And I love the term unfuckwithable.
Unfuckwithable.
Become unfuckwithable.
That is Invictus.
Yeah.
Right. You're unconquerable.
So get to a point where nothing that people say or do, unless it's constructive.
Right.
Because there are things that people say that are the truth, and you know the difference. If you're an asshole, you don't really have to be an asshole. If people call you an asshole and you're an asshole, then you're just an asshole. But if people have true constructive criticism, then take that constructive criticism. But that's not a reason to not do something because you're worried what people will say or do or think.
Yeah. No,
because some of it matters and a lot of it doesn't. The majority of it doesn't.
Well, and I get that. You know what I mean? Like, I have an ego also, man. Hello. I have a fucking ego, you know, but it's pure ego when you're afraid of public speaking or you're afraid of rejection or you're afraid of failure. I mean, that's all ego. But
at the end of the day, ego really is your biggest enemy.
Right. Exactly.
Meaning your biggest enemy is yourself, and your biggest enemy of that is your fucking ego. And so stop being an egotistical asshole.
Well, and that's kind of, right. But that's right. Stop being an egotistical asshole, but okay, so you break the cycle. Bing! What are you actually doing? You know, and again, this circles back, dude. This is a veteran thing, 125 fucking %, for real. It's just, freedom for us is just being able to take responsibility of everything that we're doing. I'm 100% responsible for everything. Well, that's great. Now fucking pay me. Right? That's it. That's what everybody gets wrapped around the axle about. They're all like, oh, it's all about money and then fear of losing money and blah, blah, blah. You want to know something? If I make a shit ton of money, somebody else does not lose out. Did you know that? If I make a shit ton of money, somebody else does not lose out. They're just going to print more fucking money, buddy. Okay? Like, it's called stimulating the fucking economy. Go make a shit ton of money. Everybody can make shit tons of money. Believe it or not. There is a fear right now of making money. I have it. I'm serious. It's fucking weird. I think that veterans have it. I sincerely do. That there is a fear or we are afraid to make money. Because that shows that you're not humble enough. Or you're not humble. You're not modest enough.
It kind of goes along with that quiet professionalism. Right. And yes, no, that but really, again, most people, the reason they don't make money is because they have an affliction. It's because of the way they were raised around money, that money is evil. I mean, shit, that's all you're hit with in the news nowadays. Every fucking show. If you watch television, which you and I don't really do much, but a lot of people watch a lot of TV. I mean, what the hell do you think the Occupy movement was about? Right. It's because money is evil. Money makes you do bad things. Big money, big problems. How many times do you hear all these fucking things said? So it's a matter of getting all the shit unblocked. And you know what?
It's weird.
It gets a little woo-woo-y though. It really does. But you know what?
How the fuck does that happen though?
Dude, but if you go, I mean, think about it in a military fashion. Okay, if you go out on a patrol in Iraq, Afghanistan, take your pick, Bosnia, wherever the hell your shit has been, right? If you're going out on patrol, if you go out afraid, bad shit happens.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
that has literally never happened to me.
Exactly. So you were never afraid though, right? But you were never
once
afraid. You had supreme confidence in you and your team.
Entirely.
Right?
Because
you were
single
like, if
time.
we make contact with anybody,
we're my God,
fuck these people up. We're going to fuck them up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they don't even stand a chance. It's not even an option. You know what I mean? Like they can roll up in a fucking T-72 and we're in Humvees, and we know we're still gonna fuck them up.
Oh, absolutely.
You understand? So
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons that our military is supremely confident. That's why we win the way that we win.
You just described literally CAT, Combined Anti-Armor Teams. We show up in Humvees with tow missiles, and they have TT-79.
And the Army does it. They show up in javelins and freaking with dragons and stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So you roll up like, yep, your bullshit ain't shit. And you roll around like you own the joint. Because you literally, that's in your mind frame. If you do the same thing with your life, you know what I'm saying? With your business and everything else, have supreme confidence in yourself, and have that confidence in making money, right?
Right.
The same thing's going to happen.
Right. Well, it's like
I mean, it's really not a rough concept.
You just literally laid it out, right? So obviously I'm not necessarily always silent. Hello, I talk a lot. But the point is, though, when I walk into Starbucks and I order my, I don't know, macchiato or whatever the hell, I'm standing there and I'm listening to the bullshit that's going on around me. And I legitimately don't want to engage with a single person in there. Maybe, I'll flash a smile at someone and be cordial. Don't get me wrong. I'm not walking around like an asshole. But the vast majority of folks, we're not hanging out all the time. It just doesn't, I want to be around the motivators and the ambitious ones. That's where I want to be all the time. You know what I mean? So I grab my shit and I nod. Hey, thanks. Hopefully I added value to the room, and then walked out, you know? And so, I mean, like, I'm not trying to use myself as an example, but I look at what other folks have done before. And the other thing, too, is just because you made a shit ton of money doesn't mean that you got to spend all your money. Where the hell did that come from? What, do you want to be hood rich? Anybody can be hood rich. Anyone. Win the fucking lottery and you're hood rich, essentially. It doesn't fucking matter who you are. You just have a shit ton of money and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to save or invest. You're not fiscally responsible.
If you're not doing anything productive with the money, what's the fucking point?
Right. And I'm pretty sure. Well, and the other thing, too, is like you can't do anything productive with the rounds of ammunition that you have in storage aside from clean them, make sure that they're serviceable, and then put the link into the actual machine gun when it's necessary to go on post or whatever the fuck it is. Right. But you always have it in reserve. Right. But I took like math for Marines and financial management for Marines in MCIs or whatever the hell. But who the fuck cares? I didn't learn how to manage my money when I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, that's another course that I had to take, like Accounting 101 and, some of these other things. And I got buddies who are veterans. Nick Bradfield of Divvy Investments. Hello. We are not getting paid for this. But Nick Bradfield, we've had him on the show before. I'll call him up and be like, how the fuck do I set this up? Oh, yeah, you're going to want a Roth IRA. See what I did there? See my impression of him? He's going to be fucking pissed.
I want a Roth IRA.
But the thing is, though, is like, dude, I had at one point in time a fear of success, I think. Is that a thing?
Imposter syndrome.
Is that imposter syndrome, I guess? Yeah,
to an extent. Because you kind of look at yourself like, what the fuck am I doing up here? Like, who the fuck am I? Yeah. It basically refers to high achieving individuals marked by an inability to internalize their accomplishments and a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. Now, to be honest, that's most veterans.
Yeah.
At least.
And you just nailed it for me.
Let me rephrase that. And you know what?
Say it again. Say it again. Do it again. Do it again. Because it hit a tone. Do it. Come on. Come on, do it. You know you want to.
It aligns referring to high achieving individuals marked by an inability to internalize their accomplishments and a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud.
That's
Most successful people go through this. We as veterans truly, for the most part, and we've talked about this on past shows, like with Nick Kumalatzos and other people, we have a tendency to not give ourselves enough credit for what we've done and what we've accomplished, right? And that goes hand in hand with this. It's, again, this mystique that especially special operations guys put on themselves of the quiet professional.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to be that guy out there, you know, flashing all
and you
your
don't
shit.
need to be.
And you don't need to be. You just, but
you have shit tons of money. It's like the guy down the block.
Here's the difference, though. Guys put that quiet professionalism into a point where it's detrimental because they don't truly believe who they are because they're like, no, I'm not a fucking hero. I just went out and did my job. But yet you need to say, hey, I am a badass. But you don't have to go out there and say it to the world. But the most important person to understand that and to believe it is you, not anyone else. It doesn't matter what anybody else believes, because if you believe it, they'll know it. They won't believe it. They don't have to know. They don't have to believe or know what the fuck you've done. They don't have to know, but they will know. Do you understand? They will know because you believe it. So it's that confidence exudes. People don't.
It's so weird.
People don't follow ideas. They follow people.
Right. They follow the actions of a human being.
Correct. So when they talk about innate leadership and people just being natural leaders, it's because they believe they're a leader.
Right.
That's what makes a natural born leader. It's like, you can teach leadership. Yes, you can. You can teach leadership to anyone as long as you can make them believe that they are a leader. That's the difference. Is people that and you know what? Most of the guys out there saying that they're leaders, I'm a leader and this is what I've done. And those are the guys that are insecure as fuck inside, and nobody follows them because they're a joke. Right?
Right. It's almost
because you're like, who the fuck is
oxymoronic.
this? It's like, who the fuck is this guy think he is? Like, you immediately get, especially with veterans. So remember during our Evan McMullen interview,
Yeah.
what did I tell them? I said at the end, I said, if you lead, they will follow. This ain't Field of Dreams, y'all. But I'm saying, and this was true in the military, if you had a person, a squad leader, a platoon commander, look at General Mattis. That man just led. That's all he did. He said, follow me, guys. And he fucking went out there and got shit done.
Right. Well,
that's what you have to do. And if you do that, people will follow you, period.
Right. And the eye-opening experience needs to be done. I mean, for me, it happens in private when I realize that I'm going through all of this agony. I'm going through and reading and digesting all of this material, and I'm constantly studying, and I'm constantly looking to make cross-sections and connect dots. I mean, that's really how you bring it all together, right? You just keep connecting dots, right? And that all happens behind closed doors. And then when you share it with somebody, the real, it's not even a fear. You're just, okay, through this worrisome, feeling that I have of failure, potentially, that makes me do that much more research, that much better to ensure that I'm standing on a pedestal of credibility. And so that I'm not looked at like, you're a fucking charlatan. Like, what you're talking about doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, add value and those 5 IEDs that you could potentially go through. If you want to meet my ex-wife and endure the fucking torture, by all means, I suffered through that shit. You know what I mean? So there's this other air of like, how do we become credible without necessarily having to say, oh yeah, I'm a credible person.
Look at me.
Right. And that's what it boils down to, in my opinion, in my professional life and what I'm doing now. I have to add value all over the place so that everybody's like, oh yeah, that guy's adding value. And they all just, there's your air of credibility.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's coming from your heart.
Exactly.
Which I know it is. And that's the thing.
So
as long as you're doing it because you want to do it, not because it's, if I do this, they will notice me.
Right. No, how about if I don't do this, I'll fucking shrivel up and die? How about that instead? Like, I love doing this. I love it. It's awesome. I mean, this is, I lie awake and think about it, and I don't lie awake and worry about it. I'm like, oh man, okay, 3 topics for the day. Where are we going with this? How can we're going to get more written word. We're setting all of that up. You know, how can we move this thing forward? You know, the worry in the back of my mind is like, fuck, man, how am I going to pay the bills? Right? Which, I mean, everybody worries about that shit in the back of their mind. But the point is that I'm going out there pursuing it crazy. I mean, we all are. We all are. It's just, this is my little insecurities. But that's all that they are. They aren't fear. I'm not trembling in my knees, you know, before I walk into a business meeting. Something like that. I mean, for fuck's sake. We're Marines.
Yeah, but so really one of the things that really does come into it, is actually having true humility. Right? Oh. So there are a lot of people out there that have just this excess self-importance.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Narcissists.
Yeah. So excess self-importance. And if you can shed some of that, that is a you know, pointing in the right direction. And having true humility, not quiet professionalism, just have real, honest to goodness humility. If you don't know what that means, go ahead and look it up.
I think
because I don't know how to explain true humility to you. I just don't, because I just don't know. It's one of those things you either get it. It's either you get it or you don't. You don't have to always have a comment for everything. You know what I mean? Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you have to express that opinion. You know, these are all things that, you know, people need to practice, because guess what? Not everyone gives a fuck what you're saying.
Right.
You don't. They don't. And then you just come off as a prick.
Well, and it's your sector of fire, right? It speaks to your expertise. Like, I'm telling you right now, you stay the fuck away from the Second Amendment. That is my expertise. How's that sound? Right? And then you've got, like, I could never discuss the topic of abortion. Can't do it. I have no say in the fight. I keep my mouth entirely shut. I have views, beliefs, opinions, values. Nope. I have no leg to stand on ever. Thanks anyway. Thank God. And then I'm going over here now. Right? Because the other thing, too, is tact.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
You can express yourself. Right. And you can express yourself. It's just do so with tact. Some people say, oh, that's political correctness. No, it's not.
No, it's not. Because you can still tell somebody to go fuck themselves without saying, go fuck yourself.
Right. I will take that into careful consideration.
Although you would never know it by listening to this podcast, because we just have verbal diarrhea with a lot of the stuff. But I swear to you, really different in person to an extent.
Right.
We usually have more tact.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, and all that I'm trying to get at is this is our, not pedestal, this is our megaphone to give some sort of license to people just like us. Just meaning veterans, right? So you swore to defend the Constitution, and now you have a DD-214. You are a veteran. So the idea then is, if you're adding value and you're putting yourself out there, you know, it doesn't need to be publicly or anything else like that, but you're adding value to every situation you encounter. You know, it's like we were just talking about humility. For me, what it boils down to is you have founders of an organization Some of those founders are going to be outbound as far as marketing is concerned. Some are going to just be inbound the entire time. If you have a business to business program or what have you, the public generally probably isn't going to know about you. You know, so it's really not that big of an issue.
What's something else that... Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
But the reason why I bring this up, though, is because if you're a veteran who builds a team of fellow veterans and employs them, right, through humility, and they get the bonuses, and it's an employee ownership model, and all of these other different things that could fit into whatever you're doing to treat people right. Even though you are the public face of what you are doing, because that is the story and the brand that is associated with it, there's still humility within that mission, because everybody who's involved in it has their sector, they're doing their job, what they need to work on, and think about it from a leadership standpoint, right? I mean, I remember being a patrol leader and saying, hey, we're going to do this as far as ammunition is concerned, and my machine gunner is going, dude, fuck you. Like, what? Like, what do you mean? Not what, hey, I'm the patrol leader. Not even like, what, hey, I'm a sergeant and you're a corporal. Like, what do you mean, fuck me? What is that about? And it's like, dude, do you understand how much ammo you're asking me to carry on top of that fucking 240? No, hell no. Sorry, change your order. That's not going to happen. I've had somebody do that in the middle of fucking giving an order with like the battalion commander there and shit. Like, no, it's too much fucking ammo. That's insane. But we have to support this position, blah, 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 blah. But that, he stood his fucking ground, and I wound up changing the order. You know, the reason why I bring it up in that context is because it's like, it doesn't matter. We're all just members of the same team. The leader has to write down the op order. If you didn't have that guy in the team, you wouldn't have a fucking op order. And not everybody can write the op order. Mm-hmm. Right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, you have your founders who wrote the op order and are a part of that, and then maybe fit within the actual structure and organization. And then you have the overall... Right, and you can maintain humility by not being a fucking asshole.
Well, here, right? One of the best quotes I've ever read about humility, and I literally, whenever I think about it, and whenever I do anything where I'm like the team lead in any project or whatever that I'm doing, it's a quote from C.S. Lewis, and that quote is: "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less."
Okay.
So when you say that, veterans, for the most part, should be quite humble folks. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's right. That's always the problem, is that we think of ourselves last, and then we don't take care of ourselves.
Right, but it's not about you as much as it's about your people a lot of times too. That is humility. Thinking not less of yourself, because you know that you're a badass, right? But thinking of yourself less. So that all goes hand in hand with adding value and all the other things like that. But to the other side of that coin is about one of the biggest twisted parts of imposter syndrome that people get.
Right.
Is because, and a lot of veterans do have this twisted arrogance about them, right? And unfortunately, I'm a big subscriber that causes imposter syndrome. Okay, so there's this belief that you have like some kind of extreme powers that the world can't handle. You know what I mean? Like you have a superpower that the world can't handle.
Oh, like it's almost too big. I see what you're saying.
Right. Do you understand? And there are a lot of veterans like that. You know, that their abilities, that you have the ability to offer the world something that nobody else can. They have this, I'm a beautiful, unique snowflake freaking mentality. You know
the
what
opposite end of the spectrum. See, I view myself as a fucking number.
Right.
I think I'm a number. And then and then you learn a couple of skills.
That's the way the military works, right? Right. You have these two sides of the extreme. You've got the guys that don't care. You've got that squad leader that'll give his squad all the credit every time. Or he'll give his team leaders this credit all the time, right?
Right.
Now, in essence, that is a true leader as long as that guy knows he's got a sense of himself, right?
Right.
He doesn't have that twisted arrogance.
You got to say we.
Right. But then
we did a good job on that one, boys.
We did a good job on that one. So, but he truly believes that he can't do it without everyone else.
Right. Which is true.
He knows that. It's so true. He can't do it. It's not him. It's the team.
Right. But the team wouldn't have done anything without that leadership. Right.
Right. And just because you have the best people on a team doesn't mean it's a good freaking team. Because usually you put a bunch of alphas together.
Right.
It doesn't really work.
Well, that's
except for but see, this is why most people in special operations units, it really works well, because they are alphas, but they're surrounded by alphas, right? So what they're able to do though is know that they're only as good as the weakest member, right?
Right.
So they really cultivate that whole ability to just bring everyone around them up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it comes down to the premise of you are who you spend you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time
with.
Right. So why do special operations units just get better? Because they truly believe in that. You know what I mean? And why do teams and squads and stuff in big Army and the Marine Corps get better and better? Is because they believe that they're better together than they are apart, and that they don't allow guys to be freaking complete scumbags all the time. Anyway, I could go down this rabbit hole forever.
Well, and they make the best founders to an extent.
Right.
And so when you have a founding team with some sort of critical skills background that know how to operate in a small, unit like that. And then the other reason why they accelerate in that model isn't just because they take overall responsibility, which special operators have more freedom than your average military member, which we all know. And that's because they have a greater responsibility in that mission set and where they're going.
They're allowed to think outside the box.
Right. So now you're out of the military. You can think outside of the box, right? This is why I love Carl Norgren, and he's going to be one of our workshop guys at Bunker Muster. But Carl Norgren is a creative populist, and he talks about the creative genius, and we have the ability to unlock it. We're coming out of a logical background where we've got system and processes, but we've also got discipline and the ability to rise to that occasion during the mission. So now all we've got to do is just say, hey, I accept the fact that I'm going to steal your... Well, I think that the military gave us superpowers in that aspect, that they gave us the ability to rise to the occasion because they showed us in a controlled environment what some of the rigors of the real world were going to be expected of us. So that way, when we did go out into the real world, which is combat, we had to think on our feet at that moment in time and then negotiate an actual realized situation where people could die, and in training, you try to get that and you try to get that feeling across. Well, you don't really have it for the civilian world, and so you find it in some of these other programs that are out there. I'm always speaking towards entrepreneurship, but whenever I talk about business creation or anything else like that, or we together on the show, what I'm really trying to say is you've got to go find another team of fellow veterans who are willing to help you a little bit in supporting what your little struggle is to get you along the line. And if you're that veteran who's already out there, you have the ability to work within their structure or organization. The only reason why I bring it up that way is because it's so many of us, and I just got done having these conversations over this past weekend, so many of us are going, fuck, man, we're all the motivators. And then we leave and we isolate ourselves, and then we're trying to figure out where the motivators are. We want to work hard. We want to do all of these things, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, where are the motivators? And I find them at Bunker Labs, you know, and there are other, you can find them anywhere else. But what I'm trying to get at, and this circles back around like fear and being afraid. Dude, I was afraid that I was going to walk in there at first and just find a whole bunch of people who were talking. I was afraid that there was going to be no action. And when I met Dean and everybody else, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that's my jam. Like, you guys are not just talking about this bullshit. It's not some other bullshit government program. You know, oh yeah, the government tries, whatever. It's people leeching a paycheck. So this gives us the ability to like earn what we keep, or keep what we earn rather, and keep going and going and going and going. So
I guess the last point I want to make is, because we're circling back to the whole fear of failure, or that's the basic premise, right?
Yeah.
And having that whole like imposter syndrome because you're afraid to fail. But failure doesn't mean that you're a fake, folks.
Right.
I mean, look at something that most guys, and this is a language that they understand. I don't watch sports really or anything like that, but the best football teams lose sooner or later. The best receivers drop passes. The best quarterbacks blow passes. The best basketball players miss baskets. Okay. The best stock traders or financial minds in the world make bad investments. Mm-hmm. Does it make Warren Buffett a bad wealth creator because Wells Fargo just blew up, his favorite stock in the entire world? I mean, just go look into what I'm talking about. Does that make Berkshire Hathaway or Warren Buffett a failure? No, hell no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just because you have a failure, I mean, Jesus, look at Elon Musk. He's got rockets blowing up all over the freaking place, right? SpaceX.
Yeah.
But what does he do? Figure it out. We're going to figure this out and we're going to get it right the next time. Yeah. I mean, the biggest and brightest, everyone, just because you're a failure, you fail, doesn't mean that you're a fake or a failure. It's just a learning process, folks. And if you can harness that ability to actually learn from your failures or your mistakes,
right,
that's how you grow. That's how you get better, period. Don't be afraid of failure to the point where you don't do it just because you don't want to fail.
Right.
That's what I'm going to leave this episode with.
No, I definitely appreciate
that.
But
also don't glorify, because there's the adverse side. Don't glorify your failure either. Don't make it feel like you're a real contender in life because you failed over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying?
Without learning from it.
Correct.
Right.
So that's it. Losing is just part of the game, folks.
Right.
Okay? But sometimes you have to win too.
Right.
So figure out how it's going to help you win.
Well,
okay?
That's the whole thing though. I mean, like for me, fear and being afraid are two entirely different things. If I fear something like the loss of my life or anything else like that, then I react in a natural response and my body heightens in blood pressure and all of that other stuff. But being afraid of something, having anxiety over something, to some people, they cannot quench that. They can't get past the barrier. And I totally understand that, and yet at the same time, I understand it to the extent of it would create an inhibition to go further, but it is not going to destroy you as a human being. It's not, you're not walking off of a cliff, falling to your fate. And people right now are like, oh yeah, well, I could lose all of my money. Yeah, you probably could. And the fear of losing all of your money, make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, you know, just to triple check your double check kind of a deal, you know. But if you're afraid to move forward into that next evolutionary phase, I mean, that's not fear, because fear is a natural.
How about don't put yourself in a position where you lose all your money. How about you actually
Right.
have a little patience and discipline? That's something that we should know as veterans as well. I mean, sometimes you have to leap off the cliff, but you're an idiot if you leap off the cliff without a parachute on.
Right.
Okay. So I love how people, you know, you hear these rags to riches, like, you know, they failed and then they lost everything. Well, and I'm not adverse to risk. Trust me. I mean, you know this,
Right.
you know this. I'm not adverse to risk, but I am adverse to my children not having food in their mouths.
Right.
So be smart, people. Put yourself in a position where you basically failure isn't really an option because you've done your due diligence, so it's not a fucking failure.
Right. Well, and it's like, don't put the money out there that you don't have. Like a lot
Correct.
of folks are asking me.
A lot of guys do that. There's like, oh, well, Richard Branson did it or what? No, actually they didn't.
Right. Richard Branson signed the Sex Pistols. He owned like a couple of record stores and said, fuck it, we might be able to make this happen. Come on, people.
I mean, like, or take somebody else. And I know Eddie, you're not, or Eddie, Mike, you're not the biggest fan of him necessarily, but that's like somebody like Grant Cardone. Okay. Grant Cardone takes a lot of risks, but the problem is before he even made his first deal, folks, the dude had $1 million in the bank. That was untouchable. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And he did that because he lived like a pauper for freaking 8 to 10 years because he had a goal. That was his thing. He's like, I'm not going to compromise myself or my family's well-being to do this. And I don't have to because I can set it up correctly where I don't have to. You don't have to have the shiny car and the big house right now.
Right.
You don't have to. Give it 10 years.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
I really like the 10X rule in the sense that it's getting out there and pushing for action. That totally makes sense.
But I know what you're saying. You don't. It's not a matter of you not liking him. It's the way that he does.
Well, it's the accelerator model.
It's his right. It's his delivery of it, but there's no doubting that the man's successful, and it's just like Oprah Winfrey. You can look at Oprah. And people hate her because of whatever, but she's also worth $4 million. And guess what? She lived on ramen for years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Full-blown billionaire who used to live on ramen.
Right. Yeah. These are the people like the guy who started Oracle, Ellison.
Yeah. He was orphan.
Right, exactly. Or the guy who started Paul Mitchell and Patron. Look at guys like that came from literally nothing. I can't remember his name. Guys like Warren Buffett, he didn't come from some extravagant family. You know what I mean? These guys, they did what they did because they're smart.
Well, right. And they hit within their strength base as well. They figured out where the win was, where their strength base was, and then just beat the shit out of it.
But any one of us can do that.
Yeah.
You know? But that's not to mean that any one of us can do it, but that doesn't mean every one of us will or should even.
Right. I'm saying all of us should make shit tons of money. All of us should.
Exactly.
They're just going to print more money when you make that much money. Like, just come on, let's do it.
Part of what I'm trying to say here is that not everyone is a entrepreneur per se. There are people that are employees. But that doesn't mean you have to settle for being a robot in a freaking cubicle.
Right.
Find somebody that really inspires you. And until you get the job that you want with them, stay after it.
There you go.
You know?
Gotta love that.
If you have somebody that inspires you and you don't want to do all the heavy lifting, but you'll do some lifting for them, trust me, they'll want somebody like you.
Nothing to fear but fear itself.
Right.
There you go. Folks, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. Thank you to our sponsors, veteranslist.us. They are awesome. We have a featured membership with them. You, as a business owner, could get 50% off a featured membership just by entering discount code Cigars and Sea. So go ahead, click. We've got a landing page, cigarsandseastories.com/veteranslist US. And yeah, you can check it out. Click on it and type in Cigars and Sea, and there you go. So if you want to get a featured membership on veteranslist.us, head on over and do it now. Folks, please subscribe, rate, review the podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM. A variety of aggregators all across the web have picked us up, which has been fantastic. Please keep sharing the episodes. Friends, families, mother-in-laws who just hate foul language, which is always the best. We love hearing comments, so if you would please get in touch with us, contact at cigarsandseastories.com. Again, that's contact at cigarsandseastories.com. We love hearing from people who just want to leave comments, maybe who think that we suck. I mean, whatever. Really, whatever you want to put on there. I mean, it'd be cool to hear from you. So, thanks again. Bennett, God bless America, no one else, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we cue the music.